K. Dan Richardson sent 2 super chats. This is the other one with the comment. Thunder and 5. Hallie is a clutch merchant. And, the
Not
goal.
that thing, a clutch merchant.
I'll be honest. I'd love to be called a clutch merchant.
Yeah.
It's a good.
I mean, the goal for OKC is not to be in clutch situations, and today was
that's like being a winning merchant.
Mm.
It's basically like the same being a winning merchant.
John, where do you stand on the statement that people are making that if Haliburton wins an NBA championship, he's already passing Chris Paul?
He ain't messing with prime Chris Paul to me. In the playoffs, Chris Paul got even better. It wasn't like in the regular season he was a top 5 player, and no. Chris Paul in the postseason took it up a different level. I do think maybe end of his career could have that conversation, but that was Chris Paul is my favorite point guard of all time. I feel like at this point,
John, quick question.
That was strong.
Wait, Chris Paul's your favorite point guard of all time?
He is. He's really grown on me.
Where did this come from?
It's been something over the years. It's just more and more kind of riveted me. But I've always been a very strong Chris Paul fan, and I think historically, as I've looked back and learned more about his career, I've just become a bigger and bigger.
You know what, John? I love that. It's beautiful, genuinely. But I just remember in your tenure of being a Phoenix Sun fan.
Yeah, Devin Booker is my guy.
It was more Devin Booker centric.
Yeah. It was.
Are you back to being a Suns fan, or you never stopped?
I don't know.
Because they suck now, so you could be back in.
John, who's your next team?
I don't know how to describe it, but in a weird way.
Who's your next team that you're like, yo, I'm excited for their rebrand?
For the Suns?
No. Just in general, because I know, like, I'll give it to you. You know how to pick them.
Thank you.
The Suns, they went to the finals. They fell short. The Nuggets, championship. Like,
Grizzlies?
I'm wondering who's next.
The Magic. The Magic are next.
That one out.
The Magic? All right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm here.
And the Chris Paul love, I think it really started with his play in New Orleans. And I see people now in the comments highlighting he's had injuries in the later stretch of his career, but it's so easy to forget who Chris Paul was in his first 5-6 seasons. And that's the player that I think a version of him that I fall in love with the most.
I mean, John, were you like 5 years old?
Yeah, you were yeah.
I was 2 when he was drafted. So
yeah, pretty damn young.
If you were 3 when he was drafted, it would have been a perfect story, book ending.
Who knows?
John, Hallie with the ring clears Harden.
I would never say clears. I prefer to have him running my offense in the playoffs.
Okay, all right.
And
Harden's
Harden's the better
championship.
player.
What's there to be said? Like
we should get it out there for the record. Harden's the better player, but in the postseason, I believe Haliburton. It's kind of ironic because it's probably one of the strongest takes I think I've ever had, and I've always felt that I'd rather have my point guard with the play style of Haliburton, where he's impacting the game more for his teammates. And I feel like his style of play has been a lot more constructive to elevate in the postseason. Despite his play in these first 2 finals games not being too pretty, we've seen it manifest with some very clutch performances throughout this run. And I think this postseason by Haliburton, it's signature in a way that very few other point guards could have. So I'd rather have him running my offense.
Do you not take into account how they are both guarded?
It's definitely a lot different. And that's partly because of their play style.
And also, just one is a dominant scorer that you have to send to all the time.
In the playoffs, he wasn't a dominant scorer, but you did
but
still defend him like
in the
wasn't
playoffs.
An efficient scorer.
In the playoffs, he averaged 30.
The efficiency took a dip.
John, even if he wasn't an efficient scorer in the playoffs, overall his shooting percentage in the playoffs is just 1% shot.
Oh God,
I
don't care. I don't care.
If you take Harden's prime year, the true shooting's still like
30%. But free throws matter because
Stop
he's getting
being
into the
a nerd. You're not a nerd. You're not.
It is nerdy. But even still, if you take Harden's prime years, 2013, like 2019, his true shooting's 3% lower than Haliburton in the postseason. I think that's a more meaningful difference, even if you do account for 3 throws.
Are you not accounting for the scalability and volume that Haliburton clearly hasn't had?
That's because reasons why.
Because Haliburton tonight had 17, but it was more like a 5-point performance, and that's because he's not emptying the clip. And Harden will have inefficient performances, but for me, I value a player in the playoffs who can get to his spots and take shots, even if it's not 50% from the field. Harden's still giving me 30 in the playoffs. He's still giving me that point production. Haliburton has shown to this point he has games and flashes where he has monster scoring nights, but for the most part, he is not able to consistently put up 25 shots a night, and that's why his efficiency looks prettier than Harden, because he's not taking as many shots.
He's also a cleaner playmaker. Like Harden's a great playmaker. I'm not trying to say he's not obvious.
Harden's a better playmaker than him.
Not in the postseason. And
You know
I feel like
what?
it's manifested. The Pacers'
If
offense
you
has
just
been
say
better
that
in those 5 years.
playmaking is everything offensively, like I
Hard-
guess
Not even
like,
that. I'm just speaking as a passer. Harden.
oh, he's
What,
not.
what
I
makes
don't
him
know. I
what
don't
makes
know.
him a better playmaker is that he can get hit prime Harden. We're talking about prime Harden.
Yeah, but
Prime Harden can get to the
turnovers.
paint at will. Anytime he wanted, he can get to the paint. Haliburton doesn't have that type of driving ability
You are
that Prime
taking
had.
everything
Harden had.
offensively
No, but
into account.
there's a thing. Playmaking comes with getting into the paint.
See, I agree with what you're saying.
If you can't get into the paint consistently, you're not driving the defense to you consistently. And that's why we see Haliburton, he's getting played a lot one-on-one. Harden, because he's able to get a foot in the paint, he's able to make more passes across the court. So, and he's able to have a lot of the defenders sag off bigs, and then that's the lob that he loved to throw a lot.
The answer is James Harden. I don't care how inefficient he was in the postseason. I'm taking James Harden. He's a better player in a vacuum. Simple.
I don't really care because I'm not gonna leave my hill. Sorry, Drew.
I wanted to hear just to get a little, just some, some laughs, some LOLs, but then I didn't want to get into a Harden,
No. You like, Joel, respectfully, that was very dumb of you. Like, you don't know who is to the left of me.
I mean, listen, I think
you could just move past, just a little jab.
The thing about it is that like CP3 in a regular season is 18-10, 18-10 around there in the regular season at his best. It's easier to go from 18 a night in a regular season to 23 a night in the playoffs. It's harder to go from 35 in a regular season or 30 consistently to anything higher than that. That's very difficult. So, like, the fact that Harden, even if he's not scoring efficiently, I think you have to take into account who he lost to. In all his years in Houston, he lost once to Dame and the Blazers. That wasn't a good loss. But then we talk about the Spurs, and then every other year the Warriors.
You're right.
I mean, Haliburton's not getting past that Spurs team or that Warriors team.
That's fair, but the Pacers this postseason beat a 64-win team. Last year they played the Celtics, which was a dominant.
They were injured, John.
They're still playing dominant teams. They
were injured though.
And
I mean, the Cavaliers were dominant this postseason in the second round.
Season.
The Celtics last year were a dominant team in every single, no matter how
they got swept.
Hey, most competitive series.
They were competitive and more competitive.
All right, but it was competitive, but they still got swept.
Way more competitive than the Mavericks were.
We value competitive sweeps on this show. We value competitive sweeps.
I do. I value the way it looks. But my final thought's going to be the Pacers offense. It's been on a different tier than those Rockets offenses, and Haliburton's scalability. You look at offensive rating, absolutely. You're talking about true shooting before. You measure offense based off of how many points you're generating per 100 possessions. And these Pacers offenses have been better in the postseason, and I think that's because of Haliburton's scalability. And that's an objective fact. I'll pull up the data. I've already looked at it before.
You're not adjusting for pace in the era.
Yeah,
Harden's prime was 7 years ago.